So I just finished reading The Fallen Star, and I know I'm a little bit late to the party as it was released a couple days ago, but between everything that is happening between the Book of Boba Fett and the High Republic, it's been a pretty busy week. But nonetheless, here we are. The Fallen Star has been set up to be sort of the Empire Strikes Back moment of the High Republic era, the moment of darkness where all of our favorite heroes and characters are forced to struggle through, where their courage and faith in each other will be tested at every turn. And The Fallen Star by Claudia is certainly that kind of book. It has all the ingredients and setup needed to be the most dark and memorable moment of the era so far, but the question is, does it deliver? But before we go any further, just to remind you, this video has a spoiler-free and a non-spoiler-free review. There will be timestamps down below, so don't worry about having anything spoiled. That being said, if you don't want my spoiler review, I still recommend you watch through the whole thing as my spoiler review builds on top of the non-spoiler one. So back to the question, does it deliver? I'm a little bit conflicted about this because on one hand, there were a few moments that really made my heart drop, and there were a few moments where it kind of fell flat. Let me explain. The book primarily takes place on the Starlight Beacon where things go absolutely haywire. The story gets off on a pretty slow start, setting things up, making sure that all the characters are introduced or reintroduced, depending on whether they are new or not. But here is where the first problem starts. The gap between these books are pretty big, and unless you've got a decent memory, which I don't, it's going to be a bit of a struggle to recall who these characters are and not to get them confused.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
For the main hero characters, that's not so much of a difficulty since you've spent a lot of time with them, but the real struggle is with the side villain characters. So you might want to pull out Wikipedia as you read through. But the issue of having so many characters isn't really a new problem for the High Republic. It has sort of been a recurring theme throughout the different books, and if you've made it this far, it's not gonna kill the mood entirely. The second gripe that I have with this book is that alongside a slow start, there is a bit of a gap in terms of information as to how this whole scenario on the Starlight Beacon was set up.
Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
In order for the whole conflict to happen, the story takes a few liberties in assuming that the reader doesn't really mind how the whole scenario was created. It does give a few details here and there, but for the most part it sort of brushes it aside. And I really think it's a bit of a missed opportunity, because for one, had the reader been taken through the motions, it would just remind you of how damn smart the villains of the High Republic are. But it's not really elaborated in this book, which is really unfortunate. While the beginning was a slow start, the moment things kick off, it really kicks off. The pacing is injected with some coaxium, and off we go. Things go absolutely crazy. There are explosions and monsters, politics and character conflicts. If there was a word I'd use to describe it, it would definitely be chaos, because, excuse my language, goes through the roof. But while the chaos and action really gets the adrenaline going, it does run into one major problem. I have no idea what is going on. Because there are so many characters involved in the book, you get jerked around constantly, and each of these characters have their own separate objectives in mind, and these objectives at times aren't even related to each other. There is also at times a lack of sense of direction. As our characters go through the various obstacles, their solution to the big problem constantly changes. And I'm not sure if I'm describing this correctly, but the characters feel more reactive than proactive. I mean, sure, they are reacting to a situation, but their solutions to the problem don't seem to have an order of priority. Solutions that you would think are on the top of the list are sort of left to the last, which is a little puzzling and confusing. Sure, there is definitely an in-universe explanation for it, which also happens to be one of the best parts of the book, but I can't help but feel that the lack of direction is a little bit fabricated for the sake of building tension. But it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, sure, while there are a few aspects of the book that I didn't really enjoy, there were a few moments that really made me go wow. The moments between characters, especially in situations of life and death, are delivered with such expertise and elegance. Surprisingly, amongst all the chaos, the book is still able to deliver and further the character arcs of some of these characters in a really coherent way. And the best part of the book is that it has the element of a mystery thriller with a little sprinkle of horror, which really makes it a fun read. The beauty about reading this book is also realizing how far the High Republic has come, and realizing how attached you are to these characters. And Claudia Gray really has to be commended for how she's able to handle these characters while pulling on your heartstrings. I can't go too much into detail about what these moments are, as that would basically spoil the book, but all I can say is that these moments are shocking, tragic, and at times really bittersweet. The book does so well when it comes to letting the reader know that hey, no one is safe. Oh, and your favorite character? You better be worried about them because there are no guarantees. Unlike the other High Republic books, the danger to these characters have never been higher, the stakes have also never been higher, and there is a ruthlessness to the writing that we haven't really seen before. And there are some serious consequences in this book. The decisions that characters make will have an unprecedented effect on the rest of the galaxy and on other characters that are not necessarily a part of this story. And for me, that is probably the best part of the book, and finishing it really left me with a bittersweet feeling. So if you've come this far in the High Republic, it's absolutely worth your time reading it. While it didn't really deliver at a level that I was expecting, it's still a pretty unforgettable and an iconic moment in the era. I would say overall, not bad. It's not quite up there as with the Rising Storm, but it's still worth your time. That pretty much concludes my spoiler-free review, so if you haven't read it yet, this is a spoiler warning for you. I know I've already mentioned that The Fallen Star isn't really my favorite High Republic book, and I do have my criticisms for it, but I still can't help but feel how important this book is. There were so many deaths in this book that I was pretty stunned at how ballsy it was. For me, it sort of started with the death of Orla Jareni, and that was the moment when I thought, oh things are about to get real. I personally really liked her character, and the way she was killed off was so nonchalant and kinda out of nowhere. I knew she was going up against a leveler, and that's a pretty daunting feat, but I just assumed that she would end up in a similar situation as Keeve when she encountered it. And this, followed by 2 death fake-outs from Geode and Leox, was really scary, especially when Leox got pulled out from the Starlight Beacon towards the end of the book. That was when I realized, oh no, I'm actually attached to these characters.
Attachment leads to jealousy. The shadow of greed, that is.
And can we talk about Stellan Gios? His death was insane. Going out while performing the ultimate sacrifice was really just the cherry on top, and the way in which the other characters reacted to it, especially Avar's and Elzar's, that was unforgettable. And can you believe Estella Maru is dead? Like, what? And what happened to Burry? Is he dead as well? I really hope not. This book bears so many consequences on the rest of the galaxy, and I think that's what I really liked about it. The actions of these characters in this universe actually have a tremendous impact on the rest of the galaxy. When Elzar killed Chansey Yarrow as she was trying to fix the stabilizers, my heart really dropped. For me, the ending and its implied implications was really the best part. It was really a moment of, oh now what? And I suppose that's where the Empire Strikes Back feeling really comes into play. This is really the lowest point in the High Republic era. I also really enjoyed Elzar Mann's character arc. We started off with his recovery process after he used the dark side in the Rising Storm, and throughout the book we get a sense that he is gradually recovering. But then at the most critical moment, he falls back into darkness and the consequences are disastrous. I will say, though, that I didn't really enjoy the Coley Lin subplot. I understand that the conflict between the crew of the vessel and Coley Lin was there to add more tension, but I didn't feel that it was really necessary, as there was enough issues going on that the crew could have easily been a part of. And I did feel as though the subplot at times did take away the focus from the main plot. But that being said, I still quite enjoyed it. I think Elzar Mann continues to be one of the more interesting characters to emerge from this disaster. His relapse back into the dark side is going to be a very interesting journey as we move forward. The revelation that Gira Staros was actually a traitor makes a lot of sense, and it will be interesting to see how her daughter eventually reacts to it. So that's something to look forward to. It's also not clear as to what happened to the monster the Nile placed inside the Starlight Beacon. I suppose the monster did go down with the station, but I'm sure it'll make a return eventually. I really do hope that sometime in the future they flesh out how the Nile got on board and started sabotaging the station, otherwise it just feels a little bit too convenient. So who knows, maybe we will get to see this happen in the future from a different perspective. So that's all for my review for The Fallen Star. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did you like the story? Of course, please make sure you put a spoiler warning before you post anything spoilery. Anyways, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.